Good day, viewers. I want to teach you methods of sculptural production, the different methods you can use to make your sculptural work. But before we start, what is sculpture? Sculpture is a means of self-expression in three-dimensional work. It is a branch of fine art. You must have seen a sculptural work. You will find sculptural work in your environment, in your church, in your school, in your work area. In Enugu State, Nigeria, we have the drummer, we have brutalized coal miners, we have three wise monkeys, and so many other beautiful pieces. Now, let us learn how to make sculptural work using three methods. The first method is the additive process. The second method is the subtractive process. And the third method is casting. Additive method of sculptural production. In this method, you make use of cement, clay, fiberglass, plaster of Paris, metal to make your sculptural piece. As the name implies, additive method, you add materials to build up the sculptural work. Additive method involves the method of sculptural production where you make use of your armature. What is an armature? An armature is the skeleton framework used in sculpture as support. Without armature, sculptural piece will collapse. Armature is the skeleton frame that holds the piece of work. It is the background that you build the sculptural work on. This is a 12 feet 6 inches armature of a horse. You can imagine what this sculptural piece will look like without an armature. Of course, the work will collapse. This is an armature. You use it for your additive process of sculptural production. Remember, in the additive process, you get your clay and you add. You get your clay and you add. And that is how to model using the additive method. When you want to work using the additive method, the first stage is to have a mental picture of what you want to do. When you have this mental picture, you begin to visualize your finished work even before you start. The next thing to do is to sketch out your design. When you sketch out your design, you transfer your design on a work surface. When you do this, using any additive medium of your choice, you begin to add. You begin to add. Remember, in the additive process, you add materials to build up the sculpture. You add materials to build up the sculpture. You can also use cement as an additive media to make your sculptural work. The subtractive method of sculptural production. In this method, material is taken away. Subtractive method of sculptural production, you subtract. You take something away from what you already have. In this method, material is taken away. This refers to the carving process in wood and stone, where bits of the media is chipped out to reveal the form. When you model with the subtractive method, you make use of your mallet and your chisel. And when you model and when you carve, you should be very careful so that you don't apply too much pressure on the mallet when you're supposed to add just a little pressure. The subtractive method have little or no room for correction. Unlike the additive method, when you make a mistake during modeling, you remove that part. You correct your mistake. When you make mistake while modeling with clay, you can remove that part, you make your correction and you continue modeling. But using the subtractive method, there is little or no room for correction, so you have to be careful. How do you make sculptural work using the subtractive method? The first is you know what you want to model. The second, you make a sketch of your finished work. you visualize your finished work, you make a mental picture, of course you transfer it to your sketch. Having done that, get a wood that suits the work you want to do. That suits the work you want to do in terms of the size, in terms of the shape of the work, in terms of the circumference you are working on. When you get this wood, treat your wood to avoid infestation of termites. Then the next process, you carve. You detail your work, and you finish. Using the subtractive method, you can make use of your basswood, your lime, mahogany to make your sculptural work. It is good to use a seasoned wood. A seasoned wood is a wood that have been stored and dried for a season. Wood seasoning means removing the moisture content from wood. When you use your seasoned wood, you begin to make your carving. Some people still choose to carve on a wet wood. What they do is they submerge the wood inside the water. Soaking the wood in water allows the wood to absorb moisture. It also makes the wood to be more flexible. They can now begin to shape this wood any shape they want. And it also makes the carving process easy. But the disadvantage is that when the wood dries, the work begins to crack and it becomes more brittle. That is for the subtractive method. Then the next method is casting. This is an interesting method. Casting is a method of mass producing a work using a mold. It is a method of mass production using a mold. How do you cast? The first process is to use your additive method to make your sculptural piece. And the second method is to make your mold. When you use your additive method to make your sculptural piece, you make a mold from the sculptural piece. A mold is a negative copy of a piece of work. The first method to cast is making the sculptural piece. The second method, making a mold from the sculptural piece. This is a mold. You may not see the figure very well because this is a negative copy of what we are doing. A mold can have different pieces depending on the shape and structure of the work. So a mold is the negative copy of a piece of work. When you want to cast, you make the work first, then from the work you get the mold. When you get the mold, you apply separator on the mold. You get your separator and you add. You get your separator and you rub on the surface of the mold. When you rub your separator on the surface of the mold, the work of the separator is to separate, to make the two materials not to stick to each other. Having rubbed your separator, you now cast. When you cast, you make use of materials like your resin, your accelerator, your catalyst, your mat, and of course your calcium. From this mold, this sculptural piece was made. You can see this is a beautiful sculptural work. From this mold, this sculptural piece was made. So the mold is a negative copy, while this is the cast. It is the positive copy. So casting is a method of mass producing a work with a mold. And I can get copies of this particular work. What I need to do is to have a good mold. I apply separator on my mold and I cast. After casting, what do I do? After casting, remember you cast on the mold. What do? I allow this the cast to dry just a little, and when it is dry, I will pull it off. When I pull it off, I will also pull off other parts of this, the cast, and I will join this cast together. When I join this cast together, I will join it using the same material I used to cast the work. When the edges are joined together, this is a sandpaper. It has different textures. We have the smooth and the rough side. When you join the different parts together with a sandpaper, you will begin to smooth. With a sandpaper, you will begin to smooth the surface of the work to achieve a neat finishing. And when you achieve a neat finishing, you paint your work and your sculptural piece is ready. Please don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and drop your comments. I am Madoka Chinaza. Thank you for watching.